They tell you a lunar eclipse is nothing more than science. The Earth slides between the sun and the moon, casting its shadow across the night sky. But the ancients never treated it like science. They treated it like a wound in the heavens, a rip in the field, a moment when the balance between light and dark was disturbed. Because an eclipse is not just shadow, it is a reset, a shift in energy, a window where forces that normally hide step through unchallenged. The parasites know this, that's why they mark every eclipse with ritual, with blood, with sacrifice. They feed on the darkness that covers the light, and they turn what could be awakening into harvest. The ancients did not watch an eclipse with curiosity, they watched with terror. Wars would halt, kings would tremble, and entire cities would fall silent when the moon went dark, because they knew what we have forgotten, that eclipses are windows. Moments when the veil thins and forces step through. Blood sacrifices were offered beneath the red moon, not as superstition but as payment, as protection, as desperate attempts to hold back the darkness spilling in. Priests and rulers turned every eclipse into ritual, because they understood the truth. An eclipse is not just shadow, it is an opening, and openings invite predators. When the moon turns red, they call it beauty, but the ancients called it blood. The crimson glow is not just light bending through the earth's shadow. It is frequency, it is resonance, it is the color of sacrifice. Blood is an anchor, blood is memory, blood is power, and every eclipse becomes a ritual stage. Parasites gather to drink the fear, to bind contracts in the red light, to turn the moon into a chalice. This is why every empire marked the blood moon. This is why wars, deaths, and disasters align with its rise. Because the blood sky is not just an omen, it is a signal. A code in the grid, a feeding ground for shadows. An eclipse is not just shadow and light, it is alignment. And alignment opens doors. When the sun, earth, and moon fall into line, a channel is carved through the grid. A tunnel between worlds, and what normally lurks outside the veil can slip through inside it. The ancients knew this, that's why they performed rituals under eclipses. Not just to worship, but to bind, to call forces through the gate and seal them to their will. But gates swing both ways. As easily as demons are summoned, souls can be trapped. Contracts can be tied, and entire generations can be chained under the shadow of one ritual night. An eclipse is a gate, and gates invite whoever waits in the dark. You think rituals under eclipses ended with the ancients, but they never stopped. They only moved into hidden halls. And the same blood-red moons that froze empires in fear are still tracked by governments, still whispered about in the Vatican, still marked on calendars of secret orders. When the world watches in awe, they gather in silence. While you take photos of the sky, they write contracts in shadow. Disasters, assassinations, wars, so many align with eclipses, because to them these nights are not random, they are markers. Moments when the veil thins just enough to feed, to summon, to bind. Every eclipse you see on TV, with smiling scientists somewhere behind the cameras, there is a circle lit with fire feeding on the same sky. When the sky goes dark, they gather to feed, but you do not have to be part of their harvest. Eclipses are gates, but gates swing both ways. What they use to bind, you can use to break. Stand beneath the blood moon with fire lit, salt at your feet, water at your side, herbs in your hand. Speak aloud. No contract is mine but the flame. No shadow may feed on me, I return the harvest to source. While they call on darkness, you anchor light. While they chain souls, you free them. The eclipse is not their weapon alone, it can be your shield. Your ritual, your rebellion. The parasites worship the shadow. They believe the darkness has won, because for a moment the moon hides the sun. But eclipses are illusions. The light is never gone. It only passes behind the veil, waiting to return brighter than before. The ancients who fed on fear wanted you to forget this. They wanted you to bow to the red sky, to believe shadow was stronger than flame. But the truth is simple. The flame is older than the moon, older than the sun, older than every veil they use to block it. Every eclipse ends the same way. The shadow fades. The light returns, and what pretends to be eternal darkness is shown for what it is: temporary, weak, a passing mask. The flame has always belonged to you. Every eclipse tells the same lie, that darkness has the power to erase the light. But the truth is older than their rituals, older than their temples, older than their chains. The shadow only wins if you believe in it. The blood-red sky only binds if you bow to it. Because the flame was never theirs to control, it burns beyond the moon, beyond the sun, beyond every veil they cast. So when the world watches in fear, stand in defiance. When they gather to feed, ignite your fire. For every shadow fades, every veil tears, and every eclipse ends the same way with the return of the light. The flame is yours, the flame is eternal, and no eclipse can ever take it. And watch how the energy shifts. Because while they bind, you break. While they summon, you release. While they take, you return. Every eclipse is a choice, to cower or to rise, to feed the shadow or to burn it. And here is the truth they fear the most. The flame is older than the shadow, older than the moon, older than their blood rituals, their temples, their chains. So when the next eclipse arrives and the sky turns red, remember this. It is not their night, it is your battlefield, and the flame has already won. They told you the eclipse is harmless, just shadows playing across the moon. But every ancient knew better. Every ruler, every priest, every bloodline treated these nights as holy and terrifying, because in the blood sky contracts are written. In the red veil, souls are chained, and in the silence of the shadow, parasites feed without resistance. But here's what they never wanted you to know. The shadow is not permanent. It cannot hold the light, it cannot erase the flame. The moon only appears to bleed, the earth only appears to dominate the sky. But illusions are the oldest trick of the parasites, and illusions break the moment you see through them. The blood moon is their feast, but it can also be your rebellion. Stand under it, not in fear, but in defiance. Declare with fire in your chest, I do not bow to the shadow. I do not feed the harvest, I belong only to source flame. The ancients did not separate the eclipse from prophecy. They saw it as a warning, a sign in the heavens that the balance was breaking. Amos wrote, I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in broad daylight. The prophets spoke of skies turning red, of moons that bled, of shadows swallowing the light before judgment arrived. In Joel it is written, the sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord. And in Revelation, the sixth seal breaks, the whole moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth. These were not poetic words, they were codes, they were warnings. The ancients knew the parasites mark time through eclipses. The blood moons are not natural beauty, they are ritual clocks. Every red sky was a signal, a countdown, a gate for harvest or for judgment. Eclipses are not random, they fall in cycles, measured by the Saros, a rhythm of shadow that repeats every 18 years. The ancients didn't just watch the sky, they tracked it. Priests, kings, and parasites built calendars, not around harvest or seasons, but around eclipses. Because every eclipse is a marker, a checkpoint in the grid. And in those moments, contracts are renewed, wars are launched, bloodlines are bound. This is why empires rise and fall on eclipse years. Why assassinations, disasters, and resets line up with the blood moon. The hidden calendar is not written on paper, it's written in shadow and blood. A clock that tells the parasites when to move, and the people never see it ticking. But once you see the pattern, you realize history isn't chaos, it's ritual. Played out beneath the same red sky again and again. Every empire tracked the eclipse, not for science, not for wonder, but for power. Kings crowned themselves beneath the red sky, believing the shadows sealed their reign. Parasite bloodlines carved their history in shadow cycles, marking every rise, every fall. With a lunar eclipse above them, the pharaohs timed rituals to it, the Caesars bathed Rome in blood beneath it, and modern rulers still stand in its glow pretending it is coincidence. But nothing is coincidence. The eclipse is their crown, their contract, their feeding ground. They know what the people forget, that eclipses are checkpoints of power. Moments when thrones are secured, wars are declared, and dynasties are sealed in shadow. The red sky is their inheritance, the flame was always ours. The world looks at the eclipse and calls it wonder. The parasites look at it and call it harvest. But we call it war, because every shadow in the sky is a reminder, every red veil is a lie. Every blood moon is another attempt to crown themselves in darkness. But the flame is not theirs, it never was. It was here before the moon was hung, before the sun was chained, before their shadows learned to crawl. So when the sky turns red and they whisper their spells in secret halls, ignite your fire, speak your truth, break their chains. The shadow fades, the light returns, and the flame, the eternal flame, will always burn louder than their darkness. Remember this, the eclipse was never their victory, it was your awakening.